Grandmaster Praggnanandhaa takes on Jan Krzysztof Duda at the Superbet Chess Classic in Romania. A very important clash. This is a handshake. Prag is doing really well in this tournament. +1 for him, 1 win and 4 draws in 5 rounds. We had a rest day after 5th game and now we are back on the board. Prag has the black pieces. Duda opens the game with 1 c4. Prag responds back with knight to f6. The white knight comes to c3. And now Prag plays the symmetrical variation with c5. So white is trying to now think what way to continue. Knight f3 makes a lot of sense because you want to play pawn to d4. There's also another way to play, which is e3 and d4. There's also g3, bishop g2. Prag also brings his knight out to c6. Will be interesting to see which way Duda chooses. He goes for the fianchetto variation with g3. And Prag can also continue in the similar vein with g6. He can also play in the center with e6. But he goes for, I think, the most ambitious approach, which is d5. And why is this very ambitious? Because what black does here is he tries to exchange his d pawn with the c pawn. So in that sense, it gives white the 2 central pawns, more center control. But black, on the other hand, gets more space. And with that space, white is also leading in development because you moved your knight twice. So bishop g2, and here Prag plays his knight for the 3rd time, knight c7. It's a very useful move because later on you want to play e5. And it's useful to have the knight on c7. It also defends the a8 rook in some lines where this bishop is unleashed. a3 played here by Duda. And now g6 by Prag. Interesting. It's also possible to go e5, but then you have to contend with this pawn sacrifice with b4. But g6, Duda goes h4. He's in his prep. It feels he immediately responds back. Prag goes h6. Very logical move. So that when white goes h5, he wants to meet it with g5. And Duda now plays his pawn to d3, opening up the bishop. Prag can now also continue with his normal development here with bishop g7. Yes, he plays it. And if Duda now attacks the pawn on c5, we could defend it with b6. So bishop e3. But if you play b6, I was wondering if there's some d4 ideas in the air. Well, maybe there is takes and now take here to attack this. So yeah, maybe it doesn't work. So goes knight d4. Prag plays his knight to d4. And a very good move now for white is knight e4, attacking the pawn on c5. Rook c1 played. Brings his rook on the c file, attacking the pawn on c5. And now the bishop comes out to e6. So Prag is looking at this b3 square. Very important for Duda to tread carefully now. Knight d2 makes a lot of sense, controlling the b3 square. But Jan Krzysztof is tempted with this move b4. Very interesting move actually. Very combative move. But Prag has this knight jump to b3, attacking the rook. How easy is it to sort of think of it? Because Prag has 54 minutes. He's clearly out of his prep. He does go knight b3 after 9 minutes of thought and attacks the rook. If you go rook b1, your knight is hanging here on c3. So you have to play rook c2. And he plays it. And now here's the point. You take. It's important to take. So Prag takes it. C takes b4. Duda recaptures back. A takes b4. And now a very important move. a5. Unleashing the rook here. Not at all an easy move to play because castle is also fine. Black is... And Prag finds it. Beautiful play in the opening. The point being that if you play b5, Then I have a4 and suddenly this pawn is super strong on the a file. Wow. Duda takes it. He's like, I need to get rid of that pawn. It's super dangerous. Let me take it. And believe it or not, guys, after rook a5, there's no good way to stop rook a1. Like, even if you castle, I'm going rook a1 and trapping your queen. It's just impossible. I mean, you can go back knight b1. So this is very important moment in the game. He castles. And now rook a1 traps the queen, guys. Unless white just goes back knight b1, which is again a very passive move. He goes rook a1. So knight b1. And now I jump in with my knight to d5. You save this. And now I go b5 or castles. And Duda, look at this. He doesn't even think to rook a1. He just sacks his queen. He's like, I'm not going to go for a passive knight b1 option. I'm just going in. Rook takes a1. Played. Fantastic chess here by Duda. But Prag's opening play has been so good. So good. And he castles here, which is a very logical move. And now Pragg is threatening. Bishop takes c3. Rook takes c3. Knight d5. Attacking the rook. Attacking the rook and the bishop here. And he should do it now. Pragg should take this and play knight d5. And perhaps it would be amazing. But instead, he goes knight d5 directly. This kind of reduces his edge a bit. Knight takes d5. Bishop takes on d5. And Pragg has a queen for a rook and a knight. So that's actually some serious material edge. Also, this pawn can be very strong as an outside passer. But currently, it could also be a weakness. If you lose that pawn, the chances of winning are not so high. Rook c5 puts pressure on this bishop. Pragg comes back, bishop c6. Time-wise, Pragg has only 12 minutes left to make the next 19 moves, while Duda has 37 minutes on the clock. Knight goes to e5, offering a trade. He's putting up some pressure on the bishop. I think you must take on g2. Bishop takes on g2. King takes g2. Now, how do you protect this pawn? It's an important question. Yes, there is this queen move that can pin the rook here. So maybe it's not really falling right now. Pragg does play queen a8. And his idea is to play b6 check and win the rook here on c5. So knight going back makes sense. Knight goes back to f3. And now rook c8 with the idea of rook c7. So this rook b5, rook c7, and you're not losing the b7 pawn. It's not so sure how you will make progress, but that seemed like a good way. Instead, Pragg goes on the counter attack. He tries to attack the pawn on e2. Rook takes e7, b7 taken. Queen takes on e2. And now a d3 pawn is also hanging. But Duda just goes rook e7. And the way in which the pawns and pieces are coming off the board, it doesn't feel like Pragg will have enough to keep this going. Queen d3 taken. And now rook c7. Playing here, doubling down the c file. Yes, he plays rook c7. Doubling down the 7th rank, not on the c file. 7th rank here. And yeah, very difficult for Pragg to make progress, because on some hand you can also be in trouble. Like imagine I go rook d7 and put my bishop here, attack your rook. Your rook has to move, then f7 hangs. No, you don't want to go. You don't want to be getting there at all. So Pragg goes queen f5. Duda attacks the queen here on f5. Queen g4. Maybe it's time to just go back, stay on the 7th rank. And Pragg is generally a great grinder. He understands when he can play for a win in even the most dead, dull positions. But this one doesn't feel like one, as the players start repeating moves, and it seems like this game very well would end in a draw. Duda gets up confidently. Pragg goes Queen f6. He's trying something. He's not yet saying that, hey, I want to draw the game. He has 6 minutes to make the remaining 10 moves to reach move 40. Rook comes to c7. But the question does remain, how do you even try to put pressure on white here? It just feels impossible. And yeah, Queen f5 played and Rook c5 coming in with a threefold repetition. While Pragg does look a bit sad here with the draw, especially because he played so well in the opening. The point does remain that he was black and he put so much pressure on his opponent. So Rook c5 played, the arbiter makes the move, threefold repetition here, and the players agree to a draw. What a game this has been between Pragg and Duda. And Duda, I think Pragg asking, do you think I had winning chances? And Duda is like, I don't think so. I don't think there was any winning chances there after Queen a1, Rook a1. And maybe Knight d5. Instead of that, he's saying, can I take on c3, Rook c3, Knight d5. Bishop c3, Bishop b6 is the variation they are talking about here. I think that's a very, very interesting one that was mentioned here. Bishop c3, Bishop to b6 played. And yeah, that just very interesting line that Duda had calculated perhaps. And it's nice to see players exchanging their notes here, trying to analyze. But for now, Pragg draws the game, keeps his lead in the tournament intact. He is in joint lead along with Caruana and MVL. And we hope that in the last 2 games that are left, Pragg is able to shine. And his 2 opponents, actually 3 rounds, Firouzja, Wesley So and Aronian. So it's going to be a very, very exciting finish at the Superbet Chess Classic 2025.